Hi there, Krish here, and welcome to another episode of KrishTV, the place to get your mojo on, the place to shine your light, and to rock the world. And today I want to talk about how to break the dam of stuckness. I don't know about you, but I often get to that place where I just feel really stuck, and it feels like there's nowhere to turn or nowhere to move. And the reason why I bring it up today is I had a session with a client this week who came into the session and was in this place of, his first thing to say was, Krish, I'm just really stuck. I've got this going on, I've got that going on, I've got stuff going on in my personal life, I've got clients, and I just don't know which way to turn, and I feel scared, and I just feel stuck. And as a coach, sometimes when a client comes in like that, they're kind of almost in this place of, well, I want you to fix me. But of course, that's not going to help. So we had to get him back to a place where he could help himself. And so I explained to him the metaphor I use for stuckness, which is this. Even though stuckness feels really horrible and really kind of crappy and all that kind of stuff, for me, stuckness is actually about self-protection, and it's something we do to ourselves. And often this is how we deal with fear anyway. So stuckness is almost like how we create a barrier around ourselves to keep ourselves from moving, because we actually don't like or fear even any of the directions or the options that are available to us. So if you think of this as almost being like a dam that holds water back, you know, you might think of the Hoover Dam near the Grand Canyon, or I tend to use the analogy of a beaver's dam. You know, it's kind of all those bits of wood and twigs and branches that are kind of held to hold all that water back. And if you think about it, what we do is we create a dam, we build a dam, because all that stuff behind the dam, all that water, all that is all that crap, it's all the things that we feel overwhelmed by. And we create a dam because we want to hold them at arm's length, because if we don't, we feel like we're going to get overwhelmed and we feel like we're going to drown. And so it's easier to kind of stay stuck and feel stuck than it is to kind of deal with all of that, because it just feels like it's all going to come in one go and crash down on us. So, what I did with my client was use a technique called the one thing. And this is based on the book The One Thing by Gary Keller, which is a great book on productivity, and I thoroughly recommend it. So it goes something like this, and this is what I suggest you might try next time you feel really stuck. So I asked my client 4 questions. So question number 1 was, what is the one thing that's holding you back right now? What is the one thing that's keeping you stuck? And so my client thought about it, and it was like all this stuff. And I said, okay, what's the one thing that you can do something about that you're not doing that's holding you back? In other words, what's one small thing that you know you could do something about but you're not? So my client said, well, I'm not getting away from my desk at lunchtime. I don't take any breaks during the day because I just feel like there's so much to do and I feel overwhelmed and I'm just not getting any rest and I don't switch off. So, question number 2 was, why are you doing that? What's underneath that? And usually what's underneath that is some kind of pain or something we're trying to avoid, or some fear we have. And basically what it was one of his difficult clients often called at lunchtime. So what it meant was that he was not leaving his desk in case that client called. And that client was particularly difficult, so he knew that if he missed the call, it would be not great. And that was stressing him out. So then the third question, sorry, fingers here, third question was, what's the cost of that? What's the cost of keeping that behaviour going? And obviously the cost there was that my client couldn't switch off, he felt stressed, and the adrenaline was pumping. And so the even bigger cost was he didn't have access to his creativity, to his resources, he was constantly reacting and firefighting, which meant that he wasn't able to kind of take a step back and really look at things. So the fourth question, and this is the really pivotal one for me, is what can you do, or how can you overcome that pain? What can you do to move forward past that pain? So not what can you do specifically to stop that that first behaviour, that one thing, but what can you do to overcome that pain that's underneath that? So it's just about being a bit proactive. So a couple of options were that he could forward his phone to his mobile phone. So if the client called his landline number, it would go straight to his mobile, which meant that if he was out walking or going out to get a sandwich, the client would get through, which is kind of not necessarily ideal, but it meant that he was out walking. He was outside, he was away from his desk, and because he was moving, that meant the energy was moving and he was in his body. So that was more preferable. The other thing was to just proactively say to the client, look, I know you often call at lunchtime. I'm only actually available between, say, 12:30 and 1, because I usually have meetings at 1 o'clock. And then what I got him to do was schedule out 1 till 1:30 every day as a meeting. The meeting was with himself, but nonetheless it was scheduled out. And that just gave him that room to say between that time he could, but during 1 to 1:30 he would be out of the office. And pretty soon, we repeated that a couple of times. So once we dealt with that, we did another one of what's the next one thing that you could be dealing with that you're not, that's holding you back. And we did a couple more of those, and pretty soon my client was moving again. He suddenly looked lighter, he had a kind of the light back in his eyes, he was actually smiling. And he actually felt like he could do some stuff. And that's the whole point. We got him back into action, and we took that whole bunch of crap and the dam, and we started to dismantle it just one little bit at a time. And that's the point. It's breaking it down, starting to get movement, getting small victories, and starting to get that sense of momentum. And what he was doing was making some decisions. So next time you get stuck, try asking yourself those 4 questions. Number 1, what's the one thing that's holding me back or keeping me stuck that I could do something about? Number 2, why am I not doing it? Why am I holding that behaviour in place? Number 3, what's the cost? And number 4, how could I get past that pain, or how can I move forward through that reason underneath it? And see what comes up for you. And just see if you can find some movement forward from that. So, once again, I hope that was helpful. I hope that helps you get your mojo on. I hope that helps you to start shining your light in the world again, and to start move forward and really be that big, bright, shining light in the world that you are. Thanks for watching this episode of KrishTV. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.